Welcome to Meaningful Moment. I'm your host, Rabbi Weinberg. Today I'd like to discuss with you, yesterday I was in the store and I saw this amazing thing. This kid goes over to the counter and he wanted some kind of chocolate bar. And his mom says no. And he went absolutely ballistic, crying and screaming. And finally, I think the mom was just so embarrassed that he gave the kid the chocolate bar. But, here's the but. Was the kid happy? Would the kid have preferred to hear the word no? I'm going to do an interesting experiment with you. I'm going to pretend like I'm a child and speaking to you as the parent. And I'm going to tell you what I really want. Dad, Mom, you may think that I want what I tell you I want, but can that be true? Because if you think about it, if you can distract me, children are very easily distracted. Oh, they'll say, oh, but over there's an elephant. Oh, elephant. So is it that I really wanted the chocolate? Or is it that I wanted to get my way? You see, all of us have within us 4 layers of reality, every single person. The first layer is our ego. And the ego, in fact, is very important. If a person doesn't love themselves and doesn't want to give to themselves, it's a problem. But if a person can't control their ego, and remember, a child has no ability to control their ego, no ability whatsoever. So if you don't control the ego for the child, then every single time you give the child what they want, they don't become happier. In fact, they become more miserable. And the reason for this is because now their expectations to get their way has increased. Now, it's not possible for a human being to always get their way, certainly when they're outside of their home. Nobody who's adjusted in this world will ever be able to get their way all the time. In fact, as I told a friend of mine, Dr. Kulik, life is really about learning the word no, because a person that always needs to hear yes will never be happy. You're obviously going to get the word no in your life. You're probably going to get the word no at least 50%, probably at least 90%. And if you can't handle the word no, then basically kind of you're done for. So as dad and mom, I want to ask you for a favor. I want you to teach me the word no. Because the earlier I learn that I can't get my way, not all the time, certain requests are reasonable and certain are not. I would say it makes sense that at least 50% of the requests of a child, the answer should be no. And if you give me that word no, now of course, there's not a child in the world that wants to hear no. In fact, there's probably not an adult in the world that wants to hear the no, because the ego always wants what it wants. It doesn't even matter if it's good for it or not. I'm going to give you a simple example. If I say to you, do me a favor, pass me the chocolate. And you're like, for crying out loud, this guy's a freaking diabetic. No, I'll be very upset. Not because I didn't get the chocolate. It's not a big deal. But you told me no. My ego doesn't want to hear the word no. So you see, one of the greatest things that happened to me personally in life, I'm not going to go into all the details, but I went through something very difficult for me, where I lost power over that which was most important to me. And I learned the word no. I learned that sometimes, even though this is the most important thing in the life, the answer is you will not have the ability to get it. And that's the greatest lesson I ever learned. Because until then, my ego was quite strong. But as I really integrated the idea that sometimes you just don't get what you want in life, and now if something happens that I don't get, okay, I didn't get it. You ever notice that people that are older, they seem so much calmer? I think a lot of it is because they know how to handle the word no. Okay, it's fine, not the end of the world. So you see, Dad and Mom, I need you to help me. I'm desperate. I'm desperate to succeed in life. I'm desperate to be able to have friends. I'm desperate to be able to make a child always wants. Everybody really wants to be independent. As part of what we do in education is help people become independent. The other day I met this guy, very sad story. He told me he was suffering from depression. I did a little test. I saw he had anxiety. And so I took the time to I wanted to help him. Turns out the guy, he's just spoiled. His parents are wealthy. He's like 65 years old. He's gotten everything he needs from his parents. And he's complaining that his parents took his sisters on a vacation and not him. I was like, you got to thank God that you have what you have, but he can't even see it. All he can see is that his parents owe him everything that he wants. You see how screwed up this person is? He doesn't have a life. He has no life, because in his world, his parents are his world. His parents never forced him to grow up. And it's very interesting, because when you look at studies of people in countries that are happy, the countries that the people are most happy are countries like Israel, when it's tough and people are just get on with the show. You look at the Latin Americans that come to America. I love them. They come, they're like our Jewish ancestors. They didn't complain. They work hard, but they're proud of their achievements. And this is our problem in the West. We're like so, they call it mollycoddle. We're so sensitive to the emotions of our children that we're making them emotional. And instead of this child being able to grow up and actually learn that he doesn't get his way and he has to work for things and he has to earn things, we create a child that expects the world to give him or her everything they want. And if they don't, they can't handle it. So I don't want to be too long, but I want to give you 3 tips that you need to do if you're a dad or mom to literally save your child from this story. The first tip is every single child needs 2 words in their lives. These are the most important words that you will ever tell a child. Yes and no. And the child cannot self-regulate. They cannot learn the word no unless the parents do it. And there are certain parents, I've seen this, where the parents don't have the courage or they don't have the mental capacity to deal with the child's tantrums. But you know what happens? They will be a prisoner of that child. This guy, 65 years old, his parents are still his prisoner because he was never educated as a child. The younger they are, I have a cousin, he's a really great guy. And when his kids, you may think it's cruel, but he has amazing kids. So you can't argue with the results. I see this very clearly. Parents that are tough, not cruel, God forbid cruel. Parents that are tough, they tell their children no, those are the greatest people in this world because they're normal, they're healthy. They don't expect the world to give them and they're not upset when they don't get it. So my cousin, at 3 weeks old, he would make his kids cry for 3 nights. Wouldn't pick up his kids, 3 weeks old. And every single one of his kids, they learned after 3 nights that it ain't going to help. And you know what? They stopped crying. This other psychologist, he gave this beautiful example. He said he saw, similar to what I saw the other day, he saw a kid come into the store and asked his mom for, this was in America, so asked his mom for a chocolate bar. And the mom says, it's not kosher. And the kid's like, okay, whatever. Then he finds a chocolate bar, it's kosher. He's like, oh, it's kosher. Mom, can I have it? And she says, no. And he goes crazy. He says, why when the mom said it's not kosher, is he okay? And then when the mom says it's kosher, but you can't have it, no. Because he said that when the mom said it's not kosher, he knew there was no negotiating. A friend of mine had a company and he brought in a consultant. So the consultant wanted to explain negotiating. He says, listen, imagine you have a towel and your towel gets wet. So what do? You squeeze it out. But it's still a little wet. So what do? You squeeze it some more. What do? You squeeze it some more. When do you stop? When there's no more left to come out. In all negotiations, the other party is going to stop when they see you're not going to bend. And so I want to say to my mom and dad here, please help me. Don't bend. I don't care if it's going to disturb you for 3 days straight, even for 3 weeks. But I need, just like you're kind to me and you give me yes and it builds me, I need no, because that teaches me that I am responsible. And otherwise, I will never, ever grow up. Never. That's rule number one. Rule number two is get rid of the iPhone. Get rid of the social media. Get rid of, as I would say, I'm a rabbi, I would say more important, and I'm saying this as a rabbi, Orthodox rabbi, more important than if you feed your kid kosher food or take him to synagogue on Shabbos is if you give your kid an iPhone, if you give your kid this technology. Now, it's an interesting thing. Do you know that all the people that actually built the technologies did not let their kids use it? Do you know that now there's a 50% chance if your child has an iPhone by the age, I think it's like 5, of depression of children? Do you understand what's going on? These things are wiring the children's minds. Their minds are being rewired. Our brains are called neuroplastic. They are wired for the reality around them. And what is happening? Instant dopamine fix. They're not learning how to communicate. They're not learning. And people give their children these phones. They give it, you know why? Because it's a babysitter. It's a free babysitter. And I'm saying, Dad and Mom, what happened to imagination? What happened to reading? You know, I live in Israel where the Orthodox community, basically, even the adults don't use these phones. And it's such a pleasure to look at them, to speak to them. You know why? They're not distracted. They're present. These are people that are enjoying life. In order to enjoy life, you have to think. You have to be part of your own thought process. You have to be creative. That's the thing in childhood. You want your child to be free of anxiety and depression and creative and imaginative. But if you're putting them in front of these things, the things are creating for them. These phones are making them. And the last thing that I'm going to tell you, and this is the easiest and the hardest fix. You need to get rid of your iPhone. You need to stop being addicted to the news because children are copying their parents to the extent that you are actually in a different realm. So they'll be in a different realm to the extent that you're present. I remember, very sad, I went to babysit these kids, beautiful family, smart kids. And like the kids were like telling me like they were so upset about the iPhone of their mom. Why? Because what does a child want? A child wants the presence of the parent. And if your presence is in your phone, there's no such thing as presence being not equally, how do I say this? Not equally distributed. In other words, wherever your presence is, that's where you're present. What does a child want most? What did we want most as our parents? As children from our parents? We want our parents to love us. I'll say the story quickly, but a rabbi friend of mine, he got a phone call from a man once, doctor. And the guy says to him, Rabbi, you know what the greatest moment of my life was? And he said, I came from a very wealthy family, went on vacations and all this kind of stuff. I once went to a friend's house and I was on a bunk bed. And I fell off the bunk bed because I had never been on a bunk bed before. And these were the bunk beds and they had like these metal things sticking out. My head split open. So they rushed me to the emergency room. They're stitching me up. And then one of the nurses says, but who's the father? And they call my father. In 5 minutes, my father was there and he was in his pajamas. He said, that was the greatest moment of my life because I saw that somebody put aside everything for me. My friends, if you want healthy children, put aside everything for them. There's a guy, Steve Ross, in Kansas City, actually owns some newspapers. And he told me that one of the things he does is he takes time with each child. He takes them on vacation, but you don't have to take a child on vacation. Take a walk. Take your child for a walk, just you and him. Play some ball. If you have a daughter, take her out, just you and her. Just give independent time. When I think back to my childhood, kind of my fondest memories, besides the Shabbos table, was when my mom, after Shabbos, would read a story to me and my sister. Why? Because it was just cozy. She was reading to us. It meant that we had her full attention. So my friends, that's number 3. Get rid of your distractions. Take your children for time. Let them see that each one individually or collectively matters. Do things without the phone. And I guarantee you, particularly if you keep Shabbos where you literally don't have the phone. This lady, she was like a Hollywood makeup artist. And the first time she told one of the stars, I can't work on Shabbos, she was very nervous. She said, I wish I had a Shabbos. Everything we need has been built into the system, but we got to use the system. Good luck. If you need any personal advice, feel free to reach out. I'll be very honored to give you any advice that I can.